Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I need it.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.
Hello and welcome back. Great to see you all. We are breaking up with RBS. This is episode number 57, and I am Tawny Santabria.
And I am JDK Winnikin, here to debunk the junk. And it is good to see you as well. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, of course, I'm breaking up with RBS. You can check us out there. You can also pick this up as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for subscribing, leaving us a review. We really appreciate it. You can also check out our Facebook group under Breaking Up with RBS to get content in between. And be sure to check out, too, Tawny's 6-week self-mastery course on how all these principles we talk about every week, how you can integrate them into your own life in your own way and experience what we're talking about for yourself. How about that?
Awesome. Go to unperfectyourself.com for that one.
Unperfectyourself.com. All right. So plenty of stuff out there. It's kind of an exciting time, Tawny. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of oars in the water, as they say, in the Boo-Wobs world. And I wanted to remind listeners, we are indeed still working on our book together, which is where this podcast started as part of that larger project. And pretty happy with the progress we're making on that so far, Tawny. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving that we are doing this podcast at the same time as we're writing that, because we get a lot of great sort of things that come out of folks listening to what we're talking about. And then we think, oh, let's talk more about that, or let's write more about that. So it's been a great process to include other folks with. Yeah, very much so. And it's a process both for the podcast and the book, being fed by the feedback that we get and the perspectives that we get, the people we talk to. So in many ways, it's just as much about them, if not more, than about the two of us, which makes it kind of fun. Yeah. Well, with that in mind, Tawny, we spent some time collaborating recently on a question that I know has come up from some other people, and is one of the things that we confront as we write this notion of proof, right? How do I know this is working, or how do I know this will work? This meaning the practice of, getting present, being in the body, as we talked about, that somatic experience. What's the proof out there that this actually works, right? And we can come at it from a lot of different directions, right? There's proof in science. There's proof in the longevity of this in historical traditions, religious traditions, that type of thing. But we've been wrestling with this lately, haven't we? This idea of proof. And so we've got some stuff written down, everybody, and we've gotten some perspectives from some of you out there. Well, let's see what comes out of this, Tawny, if we talk about it on this episode. Let's talk about proof. Where do you want to go? Yeah, the thing that came up when you were just sharing what you shared was like needing proof for it to know that something works, right? So first, we have to talk about, what does work mean?
Here we are taking apart words again. I love this. I love when we do this. Let's take apart words.
Right. So what does that mean? I don't know. Like, I think we might have a lot of different ideas about work, right? In terms of, okay, if I'm going to be more present in my life, how am I going to know that this is beneficial? Or what is it that I want to access in being more present in my life? And I think that could vary depending on person to person. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it seems to me what people mean, how do I know this is going to work, might very well mean just generally, how do I know this will be beneficial for me? Or that this will do what I hope it does, or do what I want it to do, or if there's a story out there, do what I need it to do in order to, this, and this. I think that's usually what we mean by, will this work? This proof. And I need proof for it. But some people really want that kind of proof before they're going to do something, before they're going to take it seriously. Which isn't necessarily always bad, right? You want proof that a medicine is not going to harm you before you take it.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, that the
Mhm.
proof by itself isn't bad. I think what we're talking about is um, being able to explain the benefits of what we're doing here in a way
Mhm.
that people can go, yes, I want to try that. I need the proof that this will
Right.
work, that this isn't just two people making this up and saying it works.
Right. It's yeah, certainly there's information about our bodies being important ever since we could record something, right? Or write something down or share with another person that like that, I don't know, that to me seems pretty clear because we're not just our heads bobbing around,
That's true. That's
right?
true. That's true.
So on some level, we can all agree that our bodies are important.
Start right there. Our bodies matter.
Like pretty easy, right?
Right.
And then I was thinking, as you were talking earlier too, I was thinking, okay, so I don't know if it's so much completely that proof is needed, although I think that's an element of it. I wonder, because what I got to thinking about was going for a run. Okay, I'm not a runner. Although I'd love to fashion myself as one, and there's been times in my life where I felt like, oh, maybe I could be a runner, and I'm running more regularly and blah, blah, blah. All the things, certainly stories, all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to a non-runner, a runner is going to talk to a non-runner, and a runner is going to talk to the non-runner about all the benefits of running,
Mm-hmm.
right? The non-runner is not going to experience one of those right away.
Right. I only run if I'm chased.
Right, that feeling, that endorphin high at the end of the run, like non-runners don't experience that typically in the first couple get outs there, right?
Sure.
They just
Mhm.
don't. So part of it is, I think too, is like, okay, if I'm gonna be willing to get uncomfortable,
Mhm.
I need to know that it's gonna be worth it.
Yes.
Right?
The non-runner to the runner.
Right. Or even to the person that needs maybe to dial down the stress level.
Yeah.
And okay, well, presencing practices can help you dial down your stress level and get more connected to you. I think maybe that's also what is part of the question too.
Yeah.
Is it going to be worth it if I let myself be uncomfortable and not understand something? Because that's the other part, right?
Right.
We're uncomfortable if we don't understand something,
Mhm.
typically.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet, to take that example you're talking about and maybe even the one of medicine, we take medicine more often than not. We have the trust that it's been approved, that it's safe. If it's on the shelf, right, we can take it and it can be good, or our doctor is telling us that. So we can take those things and usually have confidence that they're going to work. We don't necessarily ask ourselves, where's the proof that this works other than it takes my headache away or it helps me go to sleep. Very
Mhm.
few of us go, how I want all the proof of what does this do to every part of the body. Is what they're saying about, the 15 steps that it takes to get rid of my headache. Does it really happen that way? And if it doesn't happen that way, I'm not going to take their medicine. I'm sure there are people who do that. But for
Mhm.
the majority of us, we don't. So we already have examples of, being results feeling oriented to say whether that's proof that something works or not,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And um, I think with that example, I wonder because once we have the medicine on board, we don't have to get uncomfortable.
That's true.
So part of what we're asking people to do is to be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
right?
That's true.
Because
There's a limit to that. Yeah, there's a limit
that's
to that
the key.
analogy. Yeah,
Mhm. Yep, that's
right.
the key to getting past the stories or not being consumed or um, so influenced or impacted by the stories is to allow ourselves to be uncomfortable with, sitting with them, not pushing them away, like letting them be, allowing them to expand in the body. What are you talking about?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Expand?
Expand.
No.
Wait, the way to make that feeling go away is to let it in more?
Right. I don't want it all over my body. I'm trying to lodge it into my shoulder pocket here, right?
Right.
Um, but
Right.
but but as we allow, instead of, tap down, instead of trying to control, as we allow, we actually have more room, more spaciousness. There's a flow that starts to happen if we allow it. But it does take us making a choice to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And to steadily move towards time after time, becoming more comfortable with the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the medicine analogy doesn't work that well. If it was a medicine that we were going to be uncomfortable first for a while, but we knew it was going to help,
Mm-hmm.
that might be a better analogy. Like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but it's going to work.
Yes.
That would be, I suppose, a better analogy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the thing, and it comes back to something that we all as humans tend to do, right? We want to minimize pain and maximize not pain.
Well,
Right?
and where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Is it really a human instinctual? I mean, I don't know the answer to this actually, but is it actually a human trait to minimize discomfort, and to the degree that we don't want to feel pain? I don't know. I don't know if it is.
Yeah, I think that's a common refrain you hear, right? Is that people just naturally want to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. So
Yeah, I don't know.
it certainly
we
doesn't.
yeah. Have we been conditioned to believe that?
I think to a certain degree, right? Because I know that, for me, when I'm, working with my personal trainer or something like that, I'm actually pushing myself towards discomfort because I've seen the proof that works on the other end.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
If we always were looking to avoid and get away from discomfort, what's that? The growth is outside the comfort, right outside the comfort zone, right? Like that's how we improve, is to get outside of that.
Yeah.
With anything.
Right. That is discomfort. Right. That is discomfort. And I have a friend right now who's going through the discomfort of learning how to cook, which is real discomfort for this person, and they're doing it for health reasons, right? Because it's been stressed to them that this would be a really good way for them to improve their overall health, would be to start learning how to cook stuff at home rather than going out all the time or getting stuff that's already ready to go, and what's interesting is it's really important to them on one level, and they want proof, and they want proof. And what I said to this person was, well, why don't you do it for a while? Do it for a while and see what happens. Well, how long's a while? Just about today. Just do it today. Or just do it this morning, or Yeah.
That's the part, right? That future thinking of going into, and then, well, it's not happening fast enough, or in the way that I, that it's worth doing.
Yeah. Or it takes too much time. Right. Yeah. Or, but what I've noticed is that even in something like that, it sounds like some people might chuckle at that. It can bring up stories of like, oh man, I should have learned how to do this a long time ago. And what's wrong with me that I didn't, right? And suddenly they're, beating themselves up. Like we were talking about before, self-imposed penalties, right? Well, I deserve this, or, well, I'm not able to do this. I'm too set in my ways, that kind of stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And out of, we have choice, right? And so that is a choice that we can make for ourselves. And we have other choices, right? Also, but being able to see the stories clearly or like what you just shared, right, is what gives us at least some clarity around making, full awareness to make our own choice instead of being
Yeah.
swept up in, I'm just not capable. That doesn't work for me. Those kinds of things that can be limiting,
Mm-hmm.
for surely are limiting, right? So we still always have choice around this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it seems to me that we can choose, as part of this process, we can choose to be curious about how all this works rather than on a defensive position of somebody or something, prove it to me first. You can be engaged in the process and curious and just see how it feels, see how it goes, experience. Oh, okay. I was uncomfortable. I was comfortable with discomfort there for a little while. What does that mean? Well, what I can say is that if you can do it once, you can do it again. And if you could do it for 2 seconds, there's a good chance somewhere down the line, 3 seconds is possible, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the part, right? Like, we're the driver of our own bus, I always like to say, right? And so we do get to navigate these sticking points that might, in theory, we understand that a certain amount of exercise every single day, for example, is going to be beneficial for us. Okay. And there's a lot of other things that are beneficial for us too. So, and a lot of different ways to exercise that can be beneficial for us, right? So that part of, like, if we're interested in those pieces for ourselves and our body, because the reality is, go back to it, our body is a thing, then we'll make choices with awareness. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I find most important when I'm working with my clients, is at least if there's awareness, and then choice, then we accumulate a whole lot less regret and resentment and frustration and avoidance and all of those kinds of things that are not, they're not needed as often as they hang out with us. They just aren't. And I guess that's where my heart is in trying to work with folks around, just making things simpler so that we're not all accumulating all of the BS.
Yes, right. Yeah. Because and that awareness space is a place to sit where there can be discomfort. But the awareness also that the discomfort isn't itself a problem.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a threat unless we make it one or tell ourselves a story. And from that position, I mean, from my experiences, as I've sat with the discomfort and realized that I can sit with that, it makes it easier. I'm calmer. So I'm better able to see really where I need to go. Not just options, but nope, this is where I need to go. There's clarity there, just for the sake of sitting there. Right. And sometimes the clarity for me is, oh, that thing I've thought for a long time is a story. And then that's really what I get out of that moment. And that's all it needs to be, because I'm now going to recognize that more as a story. I'm not doing anything with it, not trying to force it down. I'm certainly not feeding it. But it is an uncomfortable space to sit in.
Right. And so that begs the question again, is way back in the whatever day, are we really wired to, from a physical play, like, avoid discomfort, or is it really from our thinking space? We've learned to, we've made discomfort a problem, and we continue to learn about how much that's a problem generationally. And so now we think it's a problem, but if it really was a problem, our bodies wouldn't be able to handle it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the fundamental assumption is flawed. Right. But then we're operating from it as if it's dyed in the wool, or if it's natural, if it's always been that way. That doesn't allow for a whole lot of other possibility or curiosity or awareness. That's just banking on it and operating from that assumption. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the less we practice something, And the more we practice something else, of course, the more we practice whatever we're practicing gets easier and easier over time because we're practicing it.
Yes.
So if we're not allowing that discomfort, even with kids at an early age, at an age appropriate space with safety, or couched in safety, right? Then we're not practicing. So of course we're not good at it, or we're not confident at it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know the technique, or that's the equivalent of going to the gym saying, "Well, I can't lift 200 pounds yet." Well, you just got here. Try 20 pounds. 10% of that. Get good at that. Yeah, it's interesting around. It's funny around these really core emotional, challenges. We laugh about it, but examples like that would be nonsensical to most people. Well, of course, I'm not going to go in and try and lift 200 pounds right away. But with stuff like this, it's that fear of what it's going to feel like, right? Or will it be worth it? That question is so powerful that we're willing to apply a very different standard to this, when it's the very thing that we probably need to not apply that to more than anything else.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, we talk a lot about emotional regulation, right? It's in schools, it's in the workplace. We talk a lot about emotional regulation, but the only way that actually works effectively is if we understand our emotions at a subtle level. Like we're aware moment to moment that, okay, I can feel when it builds, I can feel when it's like super tolerable. So we're not just ignoring all of that, and then the intensity hits, and now we're trying to regulate because we don't understand it at that point. We're just swept up in, right? The only way to regulate effectively is to truly understand, and that's the part that presencing allows for us to practice.
Yeah, around anything, right? Around whatever happens to be there in a given moment. Right. And being able to practice it around, I don't like to call things small or big necessarily, but some things feel bigger than others, or more unwieldy than others. But being able to practice on just that daily flow through, right, of what comes, the small, the big, the challenging, the not so challenging, the emotions that we're not quite sure where they came from, and not questioning that, learning how to do that on a day in, day out. That's the practice that allows for when the big ones come, you're in a better spot.
Yeah. And really what we're talking about here is mental health and mental illness to some degree. Right?
Yeah.
So as we truly start to understand our range of emotions, and we truly start to give weight to the body, like value to the body.
Yeah.
And what it can offer us. And then we start to regulate from there. We're going to collectively do better.
Yes. No matter what we may have going on. Right. And that to me is one of the great, I've called it occasionally to you before, the kind of the one size fits all appeal of this, that being able to get present in the body, to engage in our body's natural ability, right? The ventral vagal and all that. That gives us a different starting spot than we normally get, that we normally allow for ourselves. And no matter what we have going on, that can help. Whatever the background, whatever the challenge, whatever the diagnosis, right? This can help. And it does help. And that's, to me, what's so fascinating about it, because we all have it, because it's all built into us. We just have to learn to access it. And that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Is accessing that and then experiencing that. And how many clients have you had, and how many people have I talked to who've said, that's proof enough?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the case too. Like, some folks will work with us around some presencing for a short period of time or a couple of different sessions, and they end up being open enough to the process that they end up feeling the significance, right?
Mhm.
And the calm and the ease with which it offers. And then other folks might still really feel doubtful around some of this that we're talking about, or the discomfort is just, we're going at it in just like bits by bits
Yeah.
to provide some safety around it in little bitty doses where there may not be a significant, like, oh, yes, I get it now, right?
Sure.
So we all are sort of somewhere on that continuum, and it's none of it is a bad place or a better place. It just is where we're at.
Yeah.
But our bodies are wired to be able to handle this, which will allow for us to be able to adapt and regulate ourselves better just in the moments of life that can get away from us.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's an important point to make here right at the end, is that everybody is in different spots, and there's it can be easy to turn this into something. Am I doing good at this? I've done that. Am I doing well? Right. As opposed to that, again, openness, awareness, curiosity, those things. Well, it's great. Well, this has been really good, Tawny. I've got some ideas for us to write about out of this, which is good. And certainly if any of you have any thoughts, please reach out to us and let us know. And we'd love to hear more about it. We'll keep you posted on the book as we go. If you want to try this out for yourself, again, I can't recommend Tawny's 6-week self-mastery course highly enough for you to engage in at your own speed, in your own way, at your own comfort level. You can check that out at unperfectyourself.com. And of course, we will be back next week with another episode, again, kind of picking up right where we left off, wherever that might take us, right, Tawny?
Yep, as always.
Oh, it's all right. So thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Breaking Up with Our BS. We will see you next time. Until then, I am JDK Winnikin.
And I am Tawny Santabria.
We'll see you all again soon. Thanks.
Stop it now, I mean it.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.